All right, good morning and welcome to Daf Yomi Megillah, Daf Chavtet, number 29. This is, as I said yesterday, the number one Daf Yomi shir in the world, maybe even the number one shir altogether in the world. Um, it's got 5-star ratings from everyone who's watched the shir, who's attended the shir. So keep coming, watch again and again, because we have a great shir today, and also we have a big chiddush today. Love controversial. I know another controversial statement by me. Rebel Productions. It's crazy. All right. Start off on the bottom. The last word in Chav Chet on base. Tana Rabban Mevatlin Talmud Torah Latzos Hames Ulachnosas Kala. If you're learning Torah, you stop learning Torah to go to a funeral or to go to a chasana. Amru Allah Yehuda Bar Yilai Shem Mevatel Talmud Torah Latzos Hames Ulachnosas Kala. Yehuda Bar Yilai, he was someone I guess to learn Torah all the time. He would go to a lot of funerals, a lot of weddings. This is only talking about where you don't have enough people there. Well, if there's enough people there, then you don't have to mevatel. What is defined as enough people? Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Inya, Mishmei the Rav Tracer Alpi Gavri Vishisha Alpi Shipura. If you have 12,000 men and 6,000 people who blow the trumpets, Amrila Tracer Alpi Gavri Minayu Shisa Alpi Shipuri. Some say 12,000 men, and among those 12,000 men, you have 6,000 that play the trumpets. It's a lot of people, at least 18,000 people or 12,000 people. You're going to Vatal Torah a lot, and that's just the beginning. Ula Amar, when the Chaitzi Gavri Bula Ad Sichra, he says even more. You need the amount of people that reach from the cemetery to the city gates. It's probably a lot more. Rishish Amar Kinisinasa, he's how he paskin Kinisinasa Kachneti Lasa. The way it was given at Har Sinai is the way it's taken away, meaning a person's funeral, the Torah is taken away from mine. That's like Klal Yisrael got the Torah at Har Sinai with 600,000 men. Often Tilasa B'Shishim Ribo. So too, the funeral deserves 600,000 men. That's the standard. Hani Mili Man the Kari Vitani is someone who knows Chumash and he knows Mishnayos or he learns Gemara. Avalaman the Masi, someone who is a teacher of Torah. Shiura, there's no shir. You have to always mevatel Torah and always mevatel Torah for a wedding and for a funeral. Now it's kind of crazy, and I talked about this with my brother-in-law, a different brother-in-law. He says it's crazy because my another brother-in-law, made a bris a couple weeks ago. He made the bris at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the other brother-in-law, who has regular Siddharim, he said learns in Kolel. He was very upset at this. He says, how come I have to go to the bris at 11 o'clock? If the guy had work, of course he's not expected to come. But if I'm in Kolel, then I have to come. And he said this at all bris, and even if they start at 9 o'clock in the morning, I have to come to the bris. Who comes to all the bris? And all the Avreikim come to all the bris. Let's read a Tosos. Tosos, the second Tosos on Chav Tet Amud Aleph. Hani milim man de kari v'tani man de masi leis leishura. Tosa says, if someone doesn't know anything about Torah, there is a shir. What is Kedei Sarcha? Whatever Kedei Sarcha is. Kedei Sarcha is, sounds like either 12,000 people or 18,000 people, a lot of people. But Dafka, this is important, Inyan Bittel Torah, only Bittel Torah, Inyan Bittel Malacha, Asr. You do not about the malacha. L'chol b'nei ayir shari perakil l'magal kalach b'inyan isra malacha mein man dekari v'tani man dekari v'tani. It doesn't make a difference. If you're working, you don't go to funerals, you don't go to weddings. You're a busy man. So, what is better to do? Now, people would say it's better to learn Torah. I mean, this is a big debate among different communities. What should you aspire to? Should you aspire to learning a Kola for the rest of your life, or should you aspire to get a job? The Gemara doesn't say which one is better, but the Gemara does say that if you're working, you don't have to mevatel your time. Your time is more important to earn a parnasa than to go to funerals and to go to weddings. If you are learning, then you should be going to funerals and weddings because your time is not as important. A refutation of my brother-in-law, it says Mefurish in the Gemara over here, and Mefurish in Tosos. There's a big difference between someone who's working and someone who's just learning. If you're just learning, expected to have more free time. The reason being, my theory on this, is that someone who has a job has deadlines, he has things he has to do, he's meshubah to other people. When he has his own business, he has to earn a parnasa, and he's doing something constructively. He's earning a parnasa. Someone who's learning, he is really in a different world. He's not living in this world. So you have to live in this world, go to funerals, go to weddings, at least live in this world partially. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn Torah. If you have the necessary money to learn Torah, and you have a good parnasa for your family, of Yarusha, or for some reason you have enough money, there's nothing wrong with learning Megillah, learning Torah. But your time is not as important, and you have to go to funerals and you have to go to weddings most of the times. 600,000 people. Now, so that's basically what there is to say about this topic. So there you have it. And the Gemara really does say this. The Gemara says that the Gemara is Brachos. One of the first Gemaras in Shas, when you go to the Siyum HaShas, they give them Maseches Brachos. You open up the Daf Hey or Daf Vav, and the Gemara says, Godol Hanenem Yiyas Kapav Yosem Yerushalayim. It's greater someone who earns, who lives off of his own work of his hands, meaning he earns his own parnasa as opposed to taking staka from other people, greater than Yerushalayim, greater than Yerushalayim is fearing Hashem, learning all the Torah to fear Hashem. Greater is to earn a parnasa and to learn Torah. You heard it here first. You're asking me what I do. I'm making a YouTube channel. That's what I'm doing. A Daf Yomi, I'm learning Torah as part of my YouTube channel. So I'm hoping to make money off this YouTube channel. If you like me, please subscribe. Please comment. Please like it. Help me on my way. Because I'm telling you the truth over here, right? All right. The Gemara says, Tanya, see how dear Klal Yisrael is to Hashem. Wherever they go into exile, Shechina, the presence of Hashem, goes with them. Galu Mitzrayim. When they were exiled to Egypt, Shechina Imayim, Shenemar Nigla Galu LeMitzrayim. He says, Hashem says, I myself went into Galus, Mitzrayim, Shechina Imayim. I appeared to the house of your father, Mitzrayim, when they were in Mitzrayim. When the Jews were exiled to Bavel, for your sake, I sent myself to Bavel. Even in the future, when they're going to be redeemed, in the time of Mashiach, the Shechina is with them. Now, rather than say that Hashem will return, cause to return, that Hashem himself returns. Malamed, Shakash Baruch Hu Shav Imayim Ben Agali, Hashem is with them in exile, and He will return with them. Bavel Heicha Amar, Heicha. Where is the Shechina found in Bavel? Amar Abayu Beiknish to the Husal, the Shul of Hutzal, Beiknish to the Shavi Yasuf in the Harda, and also in the Shul that was destroyed and rebuilt in the Harda. Below Tema Hacha Vahacha. Don't say the Shechina is in both places at the same time. Zimin Hacha, Zimin Hacha. Sometimes it's here. Sometimes it's there. Amar Abai Tasli the Marchikna Parsa Ilina Matzina Hasa. When I'm within a parsa, within 4 mil of either of these shuls, I go about, let's say, 2.4 miles. I go and I daven in one of these shuls. Avu the Shmuel, Father Shmuel Valevi, Avu Yasvim Knish the Shafi Yasvim and Harda. They were sitting in the shul that was built and destroyed in the Harda. Ask the Shechina came. Shamu Kol Rigsha. The Shechina came and they heard a loud noise. Kamu v'nafku. They left. They thought it was a Shechina. Rav Sheish Havi Yosef Beiknish to Shafi Yosef. In a Harda, he was sitting in this once destroyed, once and then rebuilt shul. Ask the Shechina came. Well, enough. He didn't leave. Ask Malach Hasharis. The Malach Hasharis were trying to scare him to get him to leave because the Shechina was there. It's not proper for him to be there. Amar l'fanav Moshe Shalom. He didn't want to leave. He was in the middle of learning. Allah v'sheinu Allah minidchem mipnei mi. Someone who is an unfortunate person compared to a fortunate person. Malach Hasharis are fortunate people. I'm not fortunate because he was blind. Rav Sheshes. Hashem should show favor to me. Amar lahu shavku. Hashem said to the Malach, and leave him alone. Vahilahem lemikdash ma'ad. What does that pasuk mean? Amar Yitzchak elu batiknesu batim midrasha shel Bavel. There's a mikdash ma'ad. There's a small base of mikdash. Those are the shuls and base medrashim, which is in Bavel. Rezer Amar Zeh base Rabbeinu shel Bavel. That's the house of my Rebbe Rav in Bavel. His house, you learn more. Gadol shimusha yosel limudo. Darsh Rava, my Dichsi, Rava Darshan, what is it reading in Dichsi? Hashem Ma'on Atahi Salana, you were a house for us. Il Batik Nesu Batin Roshos, these are the shuls and study halls in Bavel. I'm Rabbi Maresh have a Garistan Besa. Originally I used to learn in the house. Maslina Be'knisht, I would daven in the shul, came in the Shabbos, Lahad, the Kamar David, Hashem, Ahavti Mom Mesecha. David said, Hashem, I love your place where you dwell. Have a Garistan Be'knisht, I would also learn in the shul. Tanya Razer Akapar Omer Asidim Batik Nesu Batin Rosh Bavel Shik Israel. In the future, the shuls and Beis Medrashes are going to Bavel, are going to go to Israel. Shnemar ki Tavor Baharim Carmel, Biyam Yavo. Tavor and Carmel are two mountains. They'll cross the sea. Velo Dvarim Kal V'chomer. Ma Tavor and Carmel Shalo Boel Fisha. I guess Tavor and Carmel really are mountains in Eretz Israel. They'll come to the place of Sinai, the Midbar Sinai, the Sinai Peninsula. Where Sinai was. Matar v'kamar shel ba'al fishal l'motar. They only came to Har Sinai, Maimed Har Sinai, to learn Torah. And Ikbal Eretz Israel, they'll be established. They were established. Israel Bati Knesset Batin Roshos. The shuls and study halls in Bavel Shekarim are Bisim and Torah. They learn Torah and they spread Torah. Their alachas kam v'kam. Certainly, they'll be established in Israel. That's why they have the movement of the Young Israel. They call it the Young Israel, the young version. They'll be in Israel when they get older. Darish Bakar, my Lama, Tirtzadun Harim Givnunim. Why do you rise up, make a banter? The Harim Gavnunim, the haughty mountain. Let's see if Hasam Gavnuni Yasabaskal, Amalham, Lama Tirtzudin, Darshan's it, Lama Tirtzudinim Sinai. Why do you have a claim against Har Sinai? Kulchem Bali movement. They have one in Carmel, they're a bigger mountain. They said, why was the Torah given on Sinai and not on us? And he said, Hashem said back to them, you're all have a blemish. Eitel Sinai compared to Har Sinai. Ksiv Hacha Givnunim, it says here Givnunim Ksiv Hasam O Giben Odak. Givnunim sounds like Giben Odak. Giben is someone who has long eyelashes or has a cataract. It's a Balmum. We know for a Kohen. Amar Ravashi Shmamina Haiman Di Yohir Balmum was there before we see someone who is arrogant is considered to be someone with a blemish. Arrogant considered to be a Balmum. And also Kapandria, my Kapandria, Amarava, Kapandria Kishma. Like the Mashmos, like the implication of the word, my Kishma. Kimanda Amar Adam Akif Nadari Ehol. It's short for the words. Instead of going around a row of houses, I'll just take the shortcut through the backyard of someone's house. Amarava, Yashvil Mikara. Mutter. If before the shul was built, it was originally a passageway, it was a road, or it was a highway or somewhere where people would pass by, and there was a shul that was built there, then you could, even when the shul is built, you can take a shortcut to the shul. If you enter the shul, you plan on staying there, and then you change your mind, you wanted to go, you're allowed to go out the other way. You come to the shul to daven, then you could, after you finish davening, you could go ahead and make a shortcut, and leave the other way. The person who comes to daven in the base of Megillah comes to the northern gate, he leaves in the southern gate. If grass grows, you shouldn't, the desolated base haknesses, you shouldn't uproot it. The Raisa says you can't take the grass and feed it to your animals, but you could uproot it and leave it in its place. Our Mishnah, when it says you can't uproot it, is talking about to uproot it and give it to your animals. What about a cemetery? You also shouldn't have levity over there. In Marin Behema, you shouldn't graze your animals there. You shouldn't pass a stream of water, an irrigation system through it. You shouldn't pluck the grass from them. If you did pluck the grass, you have to burn it. They cover the mason because of the honor of the dead. So the Gemara says, Ahaya, when we say because of the honor of the dead, what is that going on? What's going on the end? That burning the grass that you uprooted. Once you burn the grass in this place, what honor to the dead people is this? Ella Resha, Kavod Mason is going on the Resha that we said you shouldn't act with levity, you shouldn't graze an animal, you should treat it with kavod because there's dead people there. Mishnah says, Rosh Chodesh Adar Shchaliyot B'Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh Adar. We're going to have soon. Now Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Adar. This year would apply to Rosh Sheni. We're talking about the Daled Parshios. It falls out on Shabbos, Koran, and Parshas Shkolim. you read Parsha Shkolim. Chalios Besocha Shabbos, if Rosh Chodesh Adar fell out in the middle of the week, Makdimin L'Shavar, you read Parsha Shkolim before Rosh Chodesh Adar, the week before. Mafsikin L'Shabbos Acheret, the next week you don't read anything. B'Shniya, the second week you read Zachar Zachar. B'Shlish is the third week Parah Duma. B'Revius Achodesh Zelachem, fourth week Achodesh Zelachem, before Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Chamisha is Chodesh Kesidron. It's only for 4 weeks. The fifth week you go back to the regular readings, either the regular Haftorahs, there's even an opinion, the regular Parshios. You stop for 4 weeks reading the Parshas. We don't pass Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, Matanias, Hamaz, Yom Kippurim. All these days, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, you do not read the laning of that day. We're talking about during the week, during the Chol. If it falls during the week, you read the special portions of Chanukah, Purim, Rosh Chodesh, Tanis, Hamaz, Yom Kippurim. You read the portion of that day, and you don't read what you normally read, which is three aliyos from the upcoming week's parsha. Not awesome. Now, again, these things are all talking about regular kriya of three aliyos and 4 aliyos on Shabbos. You know, if Rosh Chodesh fell on Shabbos, we would read the regular Torah portion. Not awesome. It says over there, Be'echa ba'adar mashmin al Shkolim. Mishnah in Shkolim says the first day of Adar, Beis Din tells everyone about. It gives notice to everybody. You should bring the shkol, the machzah shekel, the Beis Hamikdash for the new karbanos, which starts Rosh Chodesh Nisan, al kilayim, and they remind people about kilayim that you shouldn't sow a field with kilayim. Bishlam al kilayim. The reason Rosh Chodesh Adar they talk about that this manzariyahi. It's a time when you're sowing your field. El al shkolim, you know, and why are they talking about shkolim now? Amar Rabbi Tavi, Amar Yoshe, Amar Kros, Zos Rosh Chodesh b'chodsho. This is the korban of the Chodesh, chodsho. Repeats the double lashon Torah. Chadesh v'havi korban mishuma chadasha. On Rosh Chodesh, bring a new korban from the new truma. Okay, the Nisan ba'yak ruve truma chadasha. Since we learned elsewhere, right? The Gemara says, I think in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, we learned that the Rosh Chodesh here is referring to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You have to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You have to bring from the truma chadasha. Kamina v'karina be'echad ba'adar kiyechi leisu shkol in mikdash. In order that there's the machzah shekel, the new machzah shekel, should be in the Beis Hamikdash within a month's time by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So therefore, we read Parsha Shkolim before Rosh Chodesh Adar. Come on, the Gemara says, who is this like? Not like Shangalil. The Ira Shangalil, Amar Shtei Shabbos. He says normally a warning is 2 weeks, not a month. The sign is Sholem Behilchas Pesach Shoshem Yom. Tanakama holds. You ask about the halachas of Pesach 30 days before Pesach to know about it. You prepare 30 days before. Shangalil Omer. Shtei Shabbosos. It suffices even a preparation of 2 weeks. I feel the Tamar Shem Galil. The Gemara says no. Our Mishnah could even be Shem Galil came on Damar Mar B'Chamisha Sarbo Shulchanas Yoshim Medina. Practically on the 15th day, already in the provinces, in the different districts in Israel, the money changes would come and would change. The people that wasn't always have half shkolim, they had to change. They had to get change. From their shkolim to half shekel, the Chavei Yoshim and Mikdash, and 25th day of Adar, they sat in the Mikdash, Mishum Shulchanos, because the Shulchanos that came around the 15th, Kamina Makarina. We read 2 weeks before that in Rosh Chodesh Adar, so they'll be ready when the money changers come. My Parsha Shkolim. What is Parsha Shkolim? What psukim is it? Rav Amar Savas Bnei Yisrael. Amar Talehem is Korban Yelachmi. It's basically the portion we read on Rosh Chodesh. It's also the portion which talks about the Korban Talmud. It talks about the Musaf of Shabbos, Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Shmuel Amar Kisisa. Kisisa, the beginning of Parsha Kisisa, which talks about the Shkolim. Mishlam Amar Kisisa, Hainu the Karle Parsha Shkolim. That's why it's called Parsha Shkolim. It talks about Shkolim, the Chsid Bar Shkolim. Elamanda Amar Kavani Lachmi. Hachamide Shkolim Ksivi. There's a mention about Shkolim when it talks about the Korban Talmud. And the Gemara says, in time of Mai, what's the reason? The Rav Tavi. Like Rav Tavi said, there is a connection because all the karbanos, the new karbanos, which is really you're starting with the Korban Talmud or Rosh Chodesh Nisan, has to come from the Nishkalim. So once you remind people to read about the chiyuv of the daily karbanos, they're going to remember that you have to bring the shkalim in order for the new karbanos. Bishlama, because everyone knew the din of Rav Tavi, right? It was famous, right? People knew these things. I'm saying Torah Shabbat Peh. Once you write it down, you forget. Elamanda Amar Kisisa, the Gemara says, Bishlam Amanda Amar Savas B'nei Yisrael Mishum L'Tziv Karbanos. Hasam Kidarav Tavi, like we said before, that there's a connection between Karbanos and the Masa Shekel. Elmanam Kisisa, Karbanos Miksivi, Shkalim Adanim Ksivi. You're right, it does talk about Shkalim, but the Shkalim, it says in Mefurish in the Torah, it's talking about for the silver bases for the Kroshim, not for the Karbanos. The Gemara says, Kedatanya of Yosef, the Gemara answers like Yosef taught, Shalosh Truma, it says the word Truma 3 times. So that's alluding to 3 different machzah shekel. Shal mizbeach and mizbeach. The half is shekel for the karban tamid, and the karbanos is for the kamarah. Shal adanim adanim. And the one that it says explicitly, that's for the silver bases. Shal bedek abayis, the bedek abayis. The third truma is talking about another machzah shekel to give to bedek abayis, that they should have upkeep, or the base of Mikdash should be in order. Bishalom anda amar ki sisa haynu deshani hay rosh chodesh mishar rosh chadashim. According to the one who says, Shmuel says ki sisa is parsha shkalim. So Rosh Chodesh, this Rosh Chodesh, normally like Mishnah says, if Rosh Chodesh other falls on Shabbos, you read Parsha Shkalim. So this Rosh Chodesh is different than other Rosh Chodesh. Why is it different? You're reading the portion of Rosh Chodesh, it's basically the same thing as Shkalim. It's just like Rosh Chodesh. No one's going to realize it about Parsha Shkalim. It says, Shani, there's the difference. A regular Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, presumably, so you read 6 aliyos of Rosh Chodesh, and 6 aliyos of Parsha Shkalim, and 1 about Rosh Chodesh. Yilu ha'idna kulu b'the Rosh Chodesh. And nowadays, when Parsha Shkalim falls out, you read all of them of Rosh Chodesh. Meaning, if Rosh Chodesh, you would read 1 of the Parsha of that week, whatever, let's Parshas Tetzaveh or whatever, Vayakal Pekudah, you read Vayakal Pekudah 1 aliyah, but the 6 aliyahs Rosh Chodesh, you read all 7 would be a Rosh Chodesh. When we have these 4 parshios, does that mean that you read only these parshios and then you stop reading the weekly parsha and then you go back to the Seder parshios? According to the one we passed, like that really you read during these 4 weeks, you read the regular Torah portion for that week. You just have a different Haftorah. Parshas Diyoma Karina, my Shani. What's the difference? Shani Dilo Rosh Chodeshim Karashisa B'Yana Diyoma. Regular Rosh Chodesh, 6 people would read an aliyah about that week's portion of the Torah. B'Chad Kar Rosh Chodesh, 1 person read Rosh Chodesh. Yila Idna Kar Tlasa B'Yana Diyoma. It's kind of interesting. 3 people would read about the parsha of that week. But Arba Kar Rosh Chodesh, and 4 people read Rosh Chodesh, because that's Parsha Shkalim. Meisive Rosh Chodesh Adar Shachaliyos B'Shabbos Karim Parsha Shkalim Maftir Miyal Yada HaKohen. Shkalim falls on Shabbos. You read Parsha Shkalim, and the Haftorah is Yal Yada HaKohen, which talks about it the half Shkalim. Bishlam Anamar Kisisa Hainu Maftir Miyal Yada HaKohen. The Damilay, it's similar to the Torah portion. The Chsiv Kesed and Mahashos Erko, which is a reference to the Machzah Shekel. Lamad Amar is Karbani Lachmi. Rab, who says that the Parsha Shkalim is Karbani Lachmi, mi Dami. Is it comparable? Is Yoyada Kol, when he talks to Machzah Shekel, comparable to Parsha Shkalim? Gemara says, Dami Kid Rabbi Tavi. Like we said before, yeah, it is connected. Rabbi Tavi, he talks about the Karbanos, that when you talk about the Karbanos, you remind yourself of the Machzah Shekel you have to bring in order for the new Karbanos. Meisive. Chaliyasa Parsha Smuchala, Melcharea, Korinosa, Kolfanosa. If Parsha Shkalim falls out next to Kisisa, presumably, like Shmuel says, Kisisa is in that area. It's one of those parshios of the week of that time of the year. So you read it 2 weeks in a row. That makes sense. Kisisa is one of the parshios of that time. That's it's Parshas Pinchas, Midbar. It falls during the summer. Is it possible that you'll repeat in 2 weeks the same thing? In Labanei Ma'arava, yes, for people in Eretz Yisrael, the Maskil, the Raisa, B'Tlashtin, Eretz Yisrael, they have a minhag to read the Torah, finish the Torah every 3 years, not every year, every 3 years. I heard there's a new thing in Eretz Yisrael now. Instead of doing the Torah portion, reading the Torah, the entire Torah Shebachtav, in 1 year, on Eretz Yisrael 3 years, they have a new chumrah. They're going to read the entire Torah every week. Every week they read the entire Torah. You come at Neit Hachama on Shabbos morning and you stop it by beginning of Sefer Vayikra. You have your Shabbos Suda. Then you continue reading through Bamidbar. Then you have Shalosh Shudas, and then you continue and you finish off Dvarim, and then you make Ma'ariv and Havdalah. It's a new takana. Get used to it. I'm joking. All right. Tanya Kavasi de Shmuel. We have a brisa like Shmuel. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Yos B'Shabbos Karan Kisisa. You read Kisisa. Maftir Yodel Kohen. So you see exactly he said. Parsha Shkolim is Kisisa. Amar Yisa Nafcha. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Yos B'Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh Adar falls on Shabbos. Motzi and Shalosh Torahs Karan Behen Echad. You read 3 Torahs you have to take out from the ark. And read them. Echad B'Yano Shal Yom. One of the Parsha that week. Echad B'Shar Rosh Chodesh. Echad B'Kisisa. One Parsha is Rosh Chodesh. One Parsha Shkolim. Amar Yisa Nafcha. Rosh Chodesh Tevei Shechal Yos B'Shabbos. Tevei Rosh Chodesh Tevei falls on Shabbos. Means Shalosh Torahs Karan Behen. Same idea, 3 Torahs. Echad B'Yano Shal Yom. Echad B'Rosh Chodesh. Echad B'Chanukah. It happens to be on the days of Chanukah, so you read 3 Torahs. V'Sricha. Both of these teachings are necessary. The 8th Mar Baha Kamar Rabbi Yitzchak. It was said by one, that was Rabbi Yitzchak. Baha Kirasir. Maybe he holds like Rav. The Amar Parsha Shkolim. That's Karbani Lachmi. Over Shtei Torah Sak. If he just would have taught the one about Rosh Chodesh Teves, that was said by other, you don't take out 3 Torahs because halacha is really like Rav. And the Parsha Shkolim is Sabbath, B'nai Sabbath, Karbani Lachmi. That's the same thing as Rosh Chodesh. Therefore, you only take out 2 Torahs. Because basically, it's just the same Parsha, Rosh Chodesh and Shkolim. Kamash Shmuel, the halacha is like Shmuel. Just say the one about Adar, you don't need about Teves. The Gemara says really, he did say one. One teaching was said about Adar. And we inferred the teaching about Teves from Adar. Itmar, Rosh Chodesh Teves, Chal Yos B'Chol. The Rosh Chodesh Teves falls out during the week, not on Shabbos. Amar Yitzchak Karot Tlos Rosh Chodesh V'Chad B'Chanukah. Rabbi Yitzchak says 3 aliyos are you read Rosh Chodesh and 1 aliyah of Chanukah. Rav Dimi Demin Chayfa Amar Karot Tlos B'Chanukah V'Chad Rosh Chodesh. The opposite. 3 aliyos for Chanukah, 1 for Rosh Chodesh. Amar Rav Mani Kavasi Rabbi Yitzchak B'Nafcha B'Stabra. Like Yitzchak B'Nafcha makes sense. The Tadir Shein Tadir Kodem. Rosh Chodesh is more commonplace than Chanukah. Chanukah is only 8 days a year. Rosh Chodesh is 12 days a year. So therefore, you read Rosh Chodesh, it has precedence, 3 aliyos. Amar Rabbi Avin Kavasi Rabbi Dimi B'Stabra. This is the opposite. Rabbi Dimi makes sense. Mi Garm Ravi Sheyavo. Which caused the 4th aliyah Rosh Chodesh? Shelkach Ravi Rosh Chodesh. I mean, we have 8 days of Chanukah. Rosh Chodesh happened to fall on one of those days, so it added a 4th aliyah. So therefore, it is the 4th aliyah by Mikri. My Aviyah. What's the halacha? Rabbi Yosef Amar Imashkichim Rosh Chodesh. Yosef says we don't worry about Rosh Chodesh. I mean, Chanukah is the ikar, and only 1 aliyah from Rosh Chodesh. Rabbi Amar Imashkichim Chanukah. He says you don't worry about Chanukah. It's the last aliyah. Hilchah say Imashkichim Chanukah Rosh Chodesh ikar. Chodesh is the ikar. You read 3 aliyahs for Rosh Chodesh, and then 1 of the reading of Chanukah, where we read about the donations they made to the Beis Hamikdash. I hope you enjoyed today's shir. Please subscribe to my channel. I know I'm subscribing, and we'll see you tomorrow.